Okay, so we're looking at line 19 in Book 1 of the Aeneid. This is almost all from 19 to 22. It's almost all one indirect statement. So let's review indirect statements before we do that. So a normal statement would be like Magistra dicet, Magistra says, and then something to viros ducis. She says, you lead men. And it's a quotation, so it's a direct statement from Magistra. Well, in English we like to say, Magistra said that you led men. And instead of directly quoting, we indirectly say what happened. So to do that, we keep the beginning part. It's easy. Magistra dicet. Now, instead of having quotes, we're going to take the subject, you, which is normally nominative, and we're going to make it accusative. Subject, accusative. The accusative of to is te. Viros is already accusative because it's the thing that's being led. It's the direct object. Both put dio for direct object. It is accusative and it stays accusative. Viros. Now the verb, which ends in s because it's you, becomes infinitive. So the infinitive is ducere. So this says, Magistra says that you lead men. The subject's accusative and the verb is infinitive. And it all relies on dicet. It has to have some sort of she said that, she heard that, she thought that, that implies a statement. Instead of directly quoting, it's an indirect quote. Well, what if Magistra said to duxisti, you led men? The way we're going to change that in Latin is we make it a past tense infinitive. Magistra dicet te viros. So to make this past tense, we use our perfect stem duco, ducere, duxi. So you have dux, and you add isse. And this is the perfect infinitive. And now it says, Magistra says that you led men. Well, what if we want to turn it around and make it passive? Magistra dicet. We want to say, men are led by you. So our subject's still going to be accusative. We're just going to put it first. Men a te, by you, duci, are led. The way to make an infinitive passive, if it's are, it becomes ari. If it's long ere, it becomes long eri. And for like duco, ducere, if it's ere, the whole thing drops off and you just have an I. That's why this ducere, the whole ere has fallen off and we're just left with an I. And then if it's forced declension ire, you have iri. These are passive infinitives. So, to hear versus to be heard. Right? To lead versus to be led. What if Magistra is predicting the future? Magistra dicet, you will lead men. The way to make something future, viros, we're going to use our third principal part, which is duco, ducere, duxi, ductus. To make it future, here you add you are, like in future. Duc tor. We're going to make it accusative because our subject's accusative. Ductorum, and then an infinitive essay. There we go. The light's turned off. And this is a future infinitive. And those are the only kinds you have. You have a present tense, a past tense, a future tense, and then passive ones. There's no imperfect or future perfect infinitive. Okay, so let's look at this and get our infinitives going. The way you have to start, you start with your but for. You have to put that somewhere. We've just been talking about how much Juno loved Carthage, but it wasn't meant to be. So we have this for but, or but for, and our verb is audiverat. It's really, right, audiverat, it just sounds better, audierat. So it's pluperfect. For she had heard, and this is what introduces our indirect statement, plus indirect statement. She had heard that an accusative verbed something. So our subject's going to be accusative. And in fact, it's that first word, progenium. For she had heard, and so when I do accusative subject of indirect statement. So even though it's accusative, it's really a subject. She had heard that the race had done something, or would do something. And the thing they do is infinitive. So if we keep looking, aha, here it is, duci. This is a passive infinitive. And it's fun to say, duci. But for she had heard that the race, and this means to be led, and it's like to be derived, to be taken from. She had heard that the race was being derived from, so a is from, and it's always followed by ablatives, from Trojan blood. And these are our ablatives. Troiano, which is going to be long. Ablative O's, always long. Ablative E's, always short. So we'd have sanguine, do, and then I think this is short, but I'm not sure. And this little line, just as little, and be long. But, for she had heard that the race was being derived from Trojan blood. Tyrios olim quae verterit arches. Quae is what we need to take first, even though it's in the middle. Quae refers to the progenium, which, a race, which, olim is a time word. In English we use it to start fairy tales. You say like once upon a time. It can mean any time far, far off in time. So that can mean in the past or in the present. So here we mean in the future, which at some point, at some time, and then the progenium is a subject of verterit, which race would at some time overturn Tyrios, arches are both accusative. Tyrian, which we talked about, the Carthaginians are from Tyre. Carthaginian arches are citadels or forts. So she had heard that the race was being made from Trojan blood, right? She's not worried about the Trojans, she's worried about the Romans who were led out from Trojan blood, which one day would overturn Tyrian citadels. Now there's a couple things. Where tere is an infinitive, and when you have an infinitive with an ending on it, like this, where teret, it's a subjunctive. This is called subjunctive of characteristic. It's characteristic of this race to overturn Tyrian citadels, which sounds silly. Another thing which is fun to do is to look at the word order, which Vergil could. He had plenty of vocabulary. He had plenty of ways to put together a sentence. He could have put these words in any order he wanted. But he surrounded this middle part with Tyrios and Archais, the same way that a citadel would surround a fort or surround a city and protect it. This is called a word picture, in which you can picture or give some sort of meaning to where the words are. So a citadel surrounds things. It's a fortified wall. And the word citadel and the word that describes it surround the rest of the sentence. It's called a word picture. And you find them everywhere, and they're just wonderful. So I'm almost done with the sentence. We're going to continue our indirect statement. She had heard that something would happen. She had heard that Hink from here. Our subject is accusative. A people. So this is accusative subject of indirect statement. So it is accusative, but it's also the subject. Accusative subject indirect statement. When we look through, we're trying to find what are the people going to do? What's the verb? And we have venturum. There's an understood essay here to make it a future infinitive, but the essay's just been left out. And it's future from venio, venire, to come. From here, a people would come. That's the future, right? They would come. She had heard that from here, a people would come. Regem is the word king. It's really the word rex. And here's like a ruler or ruling. Late is an adverb, which means far and wide. Regem's accusative because it's talking about the people. It's describing the people. There are people ruling, rulers, far and wide. And superbum's also accusative, going back to the people. Proud in war. This is another ablative of respect. We just saw one earlier. Respect. In what respect are they proud? They're proud in war. So from here, she had heard a people would come, ruling far and wide, and proud of war. And then we have excidio Libyae. This is a dative of purpose. They would be doing these things for the destruction of Libya. Libya is northern Africa, where you can find Carthage. It's west of Egypt in the ancient world. A quick note on superbum. Superbum means proud, and we like to be proud. Superbum's a really negative word. It has a negative connotation. It's like haughty. H-A-U-G-H-T-Y. Arrogant. And so we have this negative word. It's really from Juno's perspective. They're not proud because they're doing well. They're full of themselves. They're full of themselves in war. Okay? Sic volere parcas. Thus, in this way, Parkos, this is a Greek word. It's our nominative. The Parkos are in, where else are they? Parkai. The Parkai are the fates. They're three fates who, one of them spins the thread of your life, one of them weaves the thread of your life, and one of them cuts the thread when you're dead. And so Wolwere, which again is Wolwerunt, it's syncopated. It's a spinning word. It's a word of weaving and tapestry. Wolwere means to unwind or unroll, like to unroll thread. Thus, she had heard that the fates unroll. Thus, the fates unroll in the sense of to unroll your life, to unroll. It's not syncopated at all. I take that back. It's an infinitive and an indirect statement. An indirect statement. And that's why Parkos is it's accusative. Subject of indirect statement. There we go. That makes more sense. So she had heard that all of these things were going to happen. The thing about fate, and we'll see this with Aeneas too, you can't outrun your fate. You can't change your fate. Not even the gods can change fate. When something has been decided, that's it. You can't change it. Aeneas often wants to change his fate and is not allowed to, because you're not allowed to change your fate. All right, there we go.